Hi there, traders, and welcome to Trade the Structure. My name's Braden Gardner, and we're back for another video. Okay, so this time we're going to talk about how to define a market phase to get on board those big winners. Right, so what we want to do is try to always try to get into the right area for those trend moves. Okay, we want to get on board as nice and early when the actual move is more unknown, rather than getting late when the move is known. Okay, so generally those trend moves they can just keep going and going and push a lot harder than what you think. So what I'll do in this video. We'll go over the prep work that I sent it to the group and the potential that what could happen if the market started to sell off and start to break down through some support levels and what I'm actually looking for. Okay, so I'll just talk you through the prep work and then we'll get into actually what played out.
Now, don't forget to go to the YouTube channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that notification button so you get all the new videos as they come out each week.
Okay, so let's kick it off now. So how do we define market phases? There could be used different terminology around the traps. You can look at different videos, different YouTube. I define it as a market phase. Okay, I'm looking for a market when it's going to expansion, if it's going to contraction, okay, if it's going to consolidate. So they're basically the three phases that I'm ever really looking at, okay, and essentially all I'm ever trying to do is trade. I mean, the perfect scenario would be to trade in the expansionary phase. Okay, that's when the market starts to trend, when it starts to go. Okay, it depends on what time frame you're looking at, what's your base chart or what's your anchor chart. Okay, so I tend to look at the 30-minute chart and the 5-minute when I'm intraday trading. Okay, if I've got what you'll see on the screen here is the Hang Seng, that's the underlying index. So I will do my prep work on the Hang Seng index. I'll look at what the underlying index is doing, and then I'll go and try to define what phase I think it's going into or what's it actually in. Is there more to come of that same phase? Are we going to change phases or what's actually happening? What I can plan out for the day. Okay, and what I'll also do is go mark up my CFD. Okay, I use TD365.com. Take a look at that. And what I'll actually do is go and mark up my key levels on the chart and then what sort of price action on the big time frames down to the smaller time frames. Okay, so generally I might start at a daily, get a rough idea what's happening on the daily, but not much changes from day to day. Then I'll go down to the 30-minute chart to get an idea of what happened overnight and then just where the market could be going from there and what sort of key levels I'm going to be concerned with. Once I've done all that, then I'll be marking up my underlying index. And what you'll see here on the screen here, or you'll see here on the screen here, is the 30-minute chart of the underlying index for the Hang Seng. Okay, and what I'm trying to do, like I said, I'm trying to determine what kind of phase it could be going into, and I'll use some key data that I might mark up, and I'll send it off to the group. We've got our Discord channel. Send it off there and just say, okay, guys, this is what I'm sort of looking for today. Trade it as you like, and from time to time, I just give out ideas of what I'm looking for. Okay, so this here is what was marked up today and sent out. You can see that the market has been expanding down. Okay, so you got this initial phase down, big phase down. Okay, so we know that's an expansionary phase. We've got lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, all the way down until the market turns. And that's what I'd call a contraction phase, or when the market goes into contraction. And they're kind of, you've got to know when you're going from expansion to contraction, because those contractory phase can be very, very difficult and very choppy, and they're there to chop you out. If the market's going to turn around and go back into expansion, in this case on the downside, then you want to make sure that you are not trading the wrong phase of the market. Okay, so what we saw is that expansionary phase, that was nice and clean. That was a contractive phase. That wasn't too bad. And then we got this little expansion down, and that was kind of choppy. It was just a gap down, and really, really difficult to trade that anyway. Then you got a contractive phase back up. And what I was seeing on this 30-minute chart, you can see this, we could call it a retest fail. You can call it a double top. That's what I like to see. Same sort of thing, retest fail here. We use retest fail interchangeably as well with other scenarios, but more on that later. You can see that little flush. I was happy to mark that up. That was from, I think it was yesterday's action. Okay, the market, the previous session's action. So the market basically gapped down yesterday, went straight down, and we got this sort of choppy action. And we got this big flush. So the market for a couple of sessions now has been going down. Okay, but one thing to really note is that we've got that flush there, we've got that double top. So to me, that could be a change in phase. Okay, we've got, this could be a major lower high. You've got a major lower high here, and back here, right back here, you've got a major lower high as well, all in one sort of phase down. Okay, so that's a longer term. It might be a daily or a weekly that move down, and then I might be breaking it down from a daily, couple of days down, a couple of days up, a couple of days down, and so on. Okay, and I'm using my 30-minute chart to get more detail into the action. All right, and you can see that play out quite nicely. You've got the highs up here, so that to me is starting to confirm that lower high. So we're coming out of a contractory phase or contraction, looking to go back into expansion. And we saw this a couple of days down. You've got this little grind back up. We've got choppy yesterday, and basically just marking that up, you thought, okay, if we get some continuation, it's in a prime area. After yesterday's price action, kind of choppy, it kept finding support, going into new highs, finding support, going to new highs. You'll see this when I look at the 5-minute chart in just a moment. But that's basically what I said there. Okay, what I'll be looking for is that breakdown of that trend line, break down a shoulder, a lower high, and look for that expansion lower, okay, and try to take advantage of that move. All right, let's get on to the 5-minute chart now. We'll see what happened actually today. Okay, you'll see here, that's that same rising support line, and that was a breakdown. So the market's opened here. It actually opened a little bit stronger than what I thought. Okay, off the lows from the previous session closed. It actually closed down here. It opened just up slightly, and then basically it was all one-way action straight down. All right, so this is, remembering this is the 5-minute. We've got the flush way back here. So that was the session from yesterday. I think there was a couple of sessions. So I did lie. I did say it was yesterday. It was up here, but it was about 3 sessions ago. Okay, when we actually traded and we flushed out that highs, then we started failing after that. And it was some really nice trading once we start getting to that expansionary phase. Okay, so what we've determined is that, okay, if it starts to break down, we're going to continue with that expansionary phase down, and we want to be on that 30-minute chart, basically bias down. Okay, and we'll see if we can get on a short trade. And if we just drill in on that, you can see that, like I said, the market has plowed straight down. We come down through these lows. It's stalled for about 5 minutes. You can see a couple of red candles, a green 5-minute candle. So really, if that was a pullback, it was next to no pullback at all. It was a very, very strong market on the downside. All right, you can see it powered down, and it powered into another level that I've already previously marked up. Okay, into those lows, and you can see we got a bounce, and we got an extension down, trying to continue with that move down, and then it started to hold at a higher level and bounce straight back again. All right, but you can see how it played out quite nicely. So what we'll do now is we'll take a look at the actual action on a 1-minute chart on the CFD, okay, and see where the opportunities lied. Okay, you'll see here we've got the 1-minute chart of the CFD, and I've got my levels marked up ready for the session. Now we can see this vertical line here is the session open, so that's at 11:15 Sydney time, and then the index opens 15 minutes later at 11:30, and you can see right off the bat it started drifting lower. Okay, so you got really sellers were coming in, and just pressing that market lower right into the 11:30 open, which I think was here we go. There's this candle here, so we're just going to mark that up. That's the opening candle. What we got straight off the bat, we could see, remember that the market on the index just started selling off straight from the open. It opened sort of slightly higher, so it opened up into a resistance zone, and that's why you got the CFD opening up here. It was the match off for the futures market, and the CFD price was trading up there. Then they started pressing it lower, and then once the index actually opened, it gapped up slightly on the open, and then it was all straightforward selling. Okay, and you can see the market pressed down. We've got a nice little trade in here. You can see that there was a bit of a pullback, only really minor pullback, and then the market continued lower. Then we got some consolidation, and then the market continued lower from there. So for me, this was the prime area. Okay, so it comes down to when we had that breakdown. So remember that I spoke about that 5-minute pullback. Okay, there was a very minor pullback. So once the market started to break down on the index, it actually broke through that rising support. Okay, we got a minor pullback. It was really just a stall on the 5-minute chart on the index. So it stalled below a level 2, so everything was working, and then you got the market continue to roll over. So it really didn't give much of a pullback. I was assuming that it may have gone a bit deeper and then it gone a bit harder. Okay, so I thought this pullback might have been a bit deeper, like I said, but instead the market went sideways, consolidated there for a few minutes, and then continued to drive down into that major support zone. So any one of those trades paid out quite nicely. It was a good little day, and you can see how it actually pays once you know what you're looking for and you know what sort of market phase you could be going into. And you can identify that along with the key aspects like I was talking about, an RTF or a double top. You got the flush of the highs before you got failure again, and that was on the underlying index. And then we could see once the market started to open up nice and strong here, well, not nice and strong, but open up a few points. Everyone was sort of trapped on the long side. Everyone was thinking we're going to go back up again on the open. It trapped them on the long side, and it started to squeeze them all out. And not only that, you've got the market on the underlying index starting to break down, and they're going into that continuation on the downside. Okay, so it was going back into expansion on the downside, and we got this nice little phase down. So if you mark that up from sort of highs to lows, that move there was 426 points. You can see that one big move. This bounce wasn't too bad itself. Okay, you've got a bounce of about 190 points before you got another move down of about 169 points. All before that market closed. We had another bounce back up here. So that was 260 points before the market closed. and it's reopened since. You can see we've got that nice expansionary phase down, so that matched up with the index. So you know that the 5-minute chart on the CFD, the momentum was down, but the EMAs were facing down, and the MACD was rolling over, it was pressing down. The 1 minute was doing the exact same thing, and everything was lined up nicely. So all my MACDs were lined up from going for sort of that overbought territory, rolling over, going to oversold, so heading down that way. You've got your EMAs on the 5-minute on the index. You've got your exponential moving averages on the 5-minute on the CFD here, and on the 1-minute, all heading down. Okay, so everything was lined up beautifully. For me, that's the perfect scenario. We're going to go into that expansionary phase, and it's just a matter of looking for your 1-minute chart where you can get your entries once you've identified all the market phases. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and will be more videos to come. Thanks, guys, and we'll speak to you soon.